Dr. Sanjay, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
As I said, when I spoke to you last week and getting in touch with you and trying to contact you, it was a little bit surreal for me because your videos with Barry McDonough from the Day Response, when I was going through 10 years of hell, thinking I was dying of a heart attack every day. I think that video was released when I was probably 6 years into my disorder. It's maybe 7. And when I heard that, and you touching on things about the heart and stuff like, because my biggest fear was I'm going to die of a heart attack at age 18, 20, 21, 22, all to the age of 28, 10 long years ripped away and suffocated into a life of fear and agoraphobia because of that fear, Dr. Sanjay. So to be on a call with you, and literally I've just taken, so agoraphobia, I was so enclosed in, it took my life away. I couldn't, at my worst, I couldn't go further than 3 to 4 kilometers from home. And now I'm living in Paris. And yesterday I took a 2.5 hour train journey from Paris to Lyon to visit my girlfriend's brother. And here I am today in Lyon. This is like crazy for me. I never thought I could ever get past that stage in my life. 10 years of unemployment, daily panic attacks, ripped everything away from me. The key to my recovery was finding people like yourself. Okay, like how many years you work? When I first listened to you, I think you said you're like, I don't know, 30 years or something in this, and like you've been doing this for many years. And yeah, I know. So obviously, if that was, you're probably nearly, I don't know how many years you're in it now, but yeah, finding your video and finding that type of content, I could not find anywhere, not with a general therapist, not with a doctor, none of this. No one told me this. And I just think I think the whole system of kind of helping someone through anxiety disorders, panic attacks, and agoraphobia I believe the system is almost failing people in a way. And I personally, after struggling, 10 years of my life were gone. I was 18, next of all, I'm 28. And I just hope that I can be myself one day of, service to others, which I'm trying to do my best now at the moment. And having you on to talk about these type of things, that I'm basically going back in time to when I was 21, 22, 23, 24. And I'm going to ask you the questions what I would have loved to have asked you. And yeah, it's crazy how far I've come along on this, and to be on here with you when I used to watch you every day just to fall asleep at night when my heart was beating, have you in my earphones with Barry McDonough talking about how you would just calm my adrenaline down. So I want to thank you so much for that video. And I think you helped more people than you'll ever know. And then I want this video to also go on to impact a new generation of people. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And obviously, we have the questions in. And the first direct question for you is, are panic attacks dangerous for the heart, Dr. Sanjay?
No, they're not. It's important to know, I think, when you have a panic attack, to do the responsible thing, which is, when it happens for the first time, you want to go get checked out. You want to make sure it really is a panic attack, because how do you know at that time when you have it, it's all chaotic and something you haven't experienced, so you don't know what it is. The reality is the majority of young people, young, healthy people, when they come to us to get checked out, we would do an ECG, we would do a heart scan, we would ask them if they have a family history of anything. We would ask them if they've taken any, stimulants or drugs or anything like that could sometimes cause this kind of thing. But if you have, if that's all clear and your heart is otherwise structurally normal, then the chances of this being a heart rhythm disturbance is low, and the chances of it being dangerous, even if it were a heart rhythm disturbance, is very, very low. So the one thing I know is, people in their teens, in their 20s, in their 30s, usually don't have heart attacks. They just haven't, it is very, very uncommon. If you're 80, that's a totally different matter, and actually, generally 80-year-olds don't have panic attacks. It is the young, healthy people who tend to have panic attacks. The 80-year-old, they don't. They usually, when they come, something is wrong. So that, to my mind, just who you are is really, really important. If you're a young person, if you're otherwise healthy, if you have no family history, you get checked out, your heart checks out normal, it's as good as anything. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind. I would be very happy to say, look, whatever it is, even if we haven't replicated it and seen it on a test, I know nothing bad's going to happen to you. And I usually, but you have to give them that time. You have to give those patients some time so that they understand what may be going on, why it's happening, because a lot of panic attacks are about adrenaline. So if there is a surge of adrenaline in your body, your heart rate will go up, you'll feel dizzy, you'll feel awful, etc. If you can explain that to them and give them that reassurance that people with a structurally normal heart, no family history, etc., do very well, then often they feel adequately reassured, and then they can get to their road to recovery.
Voila, just that. Just exactly what you said there. If I listened to this, which I did many years ago, if only I had that in my first, if only I went to somebody like you, when I first had my first panic at age 18, I would never have went on to suffer for 10 years. Because what I did then, Dr. Sanjay, is what happens is you go down the rabbit hole. As soon as someone has their first panic attack, life completely changes for them. You start this method of avoidance. You go and get blood tests. You go and get your heart checked. I've been, I called multiple ambulances to my house sometimes, just not even for panic, just for pure anxiety, thinking of, if I can't stop thinking about this heart attack, it's going to come on. So I'm not taking any risks. I'd rather just call the ambulance, get checked out, and then have a nice sleep that night. There's a couple of paramedics that did not like me, but they had to come and do their job, and they would just come and they'd know straight away, this is the guy that has the anxiety attacks. We've been to his house, 50 times over the 10 years, nothing's going to happen to him. But I went so many times, Dr. Sanjay, to get my heart checked. I'd be sitting in the hospital with the ECG on and nothing, absolutely nothing. But then after I left that's the big part of people. After you leave, I know, the next question for you is going to be how common this is for people to come into your office. So that's the next question I'm going to have prepared for you, is how common is this, people coming in and you just know, okay, this is a panic attack. But the sad thing is, sometimes people come in, they'll have the voice that you just gave them just there a few seconds ago, but then they'll still operate their lives in fear. So it's all well and good having the correct information and the knowledge. And sometimes what I describe some of my clients to have is they literally have a PhD level in understanding anxiety, but they have a kindergarten, level of implementing that information. So they continue to not go into the stores. They continue to not. They just get that little bit of dopamine hit from listening to what you just said, which is what I used to do. Lay in bed and hear Dr. Sanjay on the yoke. I'm like, I'm not dying of a heart attack. And yet I spend all day in my house. So it's then, we'll get into as we go on, maybe about, behavioral change and stuff like that. But today, the next question would possibly go on for you is, how common is this in your setting over the last multiple years? And as I said, we must be 30, 40 years in this game now, Dr. Sanjay?
Yeah, over 30 years. And incredibly common. I would say palpitations in particular. Palpitations are a very, very common symptom, and so we get to see a ton of people with palpitations. And I would say maybe out of every 10 cases, maybe one we find something. And even out of those, very infrequently is it anything dangerous. It's something that's, that doesn't really cause any danger, but could explain why the patient got their symptoms. So what you want to do when someone gets palpitations, etc., you want to get checked out. And in an ideal world, what you want to do is you want them to have it whilst you're monitoring their heart. And if they have it and their heart is on the ECG, looks like it's regular, it's beating in a normal rhythm, then it isn't the heart. You can be very confident it isn't the heart. And so if you can catch it and show it to the patient and say, well, look, your heart actually at that time is just going a bit fast, but it's not beating in an abnormal rhythm. Your heart is doing what it is supposed to do. Something else is making it go a bit faster, and that's usually adrenaline, stress, etc. So I would say it's incredibly common. If you take young people, if you take people under the age of 40, I would say probably 1 in 50 have an abnormality, and even that would be very unlikely to be anything dangerous. Young people who are otherwise healthy, very unlikely, particularly if they have a structurally normal heart, to have anything dangerous going on. And in young people, heart attacks is not the issue. Heart attacks, to my mind, they don't tend to happen in young, healthy people. Heart attacks tend to happen in the older, sicker population. So if you're above the age of 60, if you've got diabetes, etc. But in young people, heart attacks just doesn't happen. It's a shame, because you come to a hospital and the first thing they start doing is checking you out for a heart attack. And in some way that actually exacerbates anxiety, whereas what you just want is an experienced clinician to just go and say, look, don't worry, this is nothing. We don't need to check you out for a heart attack, because I know this is not a heart attack, because I know who you are. I see the person in front of me. That, I think, is important, but very, very common and very unlikely to find anything abnormal.
Yeah, 100%, and I love the concept, as you said, about the word adrenaline. Adrenaline is literally, like, as I said before we started recording this, I said we are talking about adrenaline, and I always try to tell my clients to use a different terminology of, it's not a panic attack, it's an adrenaline surge. And that just takes so much fear out of it. And it's very sad, Dr. Sanjay, because these are only things I start to find out as I'm 8 years struggling, 9 years struggling, 10 years struggling, and I just think it's really sad that not this type of information isn't out there. And that's the reason why I wanted to have you come on here to put that onto my socials and have people getting this type of information, because it's going to help so many people. I already have clients on with me, young, 25, 24, don't even drink, don't even smoke, don't do drugs, and yet they fear the heart because, again, symptoms of panic attack, adrenaline surge. Adrenaline, once that adrenaline's in the body, you can't stop it. It's going to have to hit its height and come down. And with panic attacks, is like, the more you add to those, is this a heart attack? That means more adrenaline. Is this a stroke or a seizure, or am I going to die? More adrenaline. And it's until you actually understand exactly what's going on in your body, you can start to, if that adrenaline hits you, it can last 5-10 minutes max without adding a second fear of, is this a heart attack? And when you add that, instead of usually having your panic attack or adrenaline surge for an hour or 2 hours, you're now having it for 4, 5, 6 minutes, because you're not adding the second fear of, this is a heart attack. This is this extreme thing that's going to kill me. You're now just experiencing that rush of adrenaline. And then that's when the nervous system kind of starts to heal. What I noticed in my recovery was I wasn't reacting to second fear. So I was no longer spending an hour, 2 hours stuck in high adrenaline. I was only spending 5, 6 minutes. And that just gives my nervous system such a break for the first time in many years, that my nervous system could finally heal. It was never going to heal if I kept having these thoughts of, I'm going to die of a heart attack, I'm going to die of this. So adrenaline is a very, again, I only started finding this out in 8 years struggling, 9 years struggling. And I find that very, very sad for people. And another thing, Dr. Sanjay, was the most important thing that stuck out in that video that you said with Barry McDonough from the Dare response. One of the beautiful things you said, and this is actually a day when you said this, I got up into my shorts, jogging runners, and put my hood up and went out on a run that day. Because I heard you saying, and I'll quote you, you said that, with people that come to me for panic attacks, the saddest thing you feel for them is that they're missing. Like, the worst thing a panic can do is make you miss out on quality of life. And when you said that, I always think I was in my 10th year struggling. And when I heard you saying that, and I've listened to it many times, I've been listening to your videos for like 2 years prior to that. But was that a moment where I'm like, I'm done here. Like I've done nothing in 10 years. I've just lived in this little bubble because I thought I'm having a heart attack. And then I said, Dr. Sanjay, I'm going to go on a run today because that's the best way to bring on adrenaline, right? I'm going to go out of my house today and I'm going to run somewhere that I have not been in 6 to 7 years. And I did that. Guess what happened?
Nothing bad happened.
Nothing. I still had a panic attack the next day and the next day after that. But my momentum, my psychology was starting to change. And then what happened was, Dr. Sanjay, I would walk, run, walk, run, walk, run. And then I would do some sprints. I accepted. Technically, I said to myself, you know what? I'd rather go out as a hero and die of a heart attack than sit living like a rat stuck in a cage. And I know that's very, that sounds like, whoa, that's extreme. Yeah, it is extreme. But that's the mindset you need. I would rather, because logically, you're not going to die. But you have to have that mindset of like, I'm actually missing out on quality of life. And that comment that you made there really, really struck home with me. Would you like to touch on that? Is that really the saddest thing you feel when you see 21-year-olds, 25-year-olds coming in, 30-year-olds,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the big problem is fear. That's what this is all about, fear. And the problem is people worry, they're scared, they worry, and worrying doesn't stop you dying. Worrying stops you living. And that's really important for people to realize, that actually, what is the point of something doing something repeatedly which is not going to change your outcome? All it's doing is it's destroying your present, and then you're worried about. And I have patients who said, well, I've had panic attacks for 10 years, and I say, well, and they say, well, my mind seeks certainty. I need certainty that nothing bad's going to happen to me. Do something. Is there a test you can do that will give me certainty that nothing bad's going to happen to you? And I say, well, there is one test that will give you certainty that nothing bad's going to happen to you. And that is the test of time. You go into the future and look back and see if anything bad happened to you. Well, 10 years down the line, you can now look back in the last 10 years and say, okay, well, I was worrying that this is going to happen. It didn't. So the last thing you then want to do is spend the next 10 years doing the same thing. At some point, you have to turn around and say, actually, that was irrational. That wasn't. So I think this is the fundamental issue, that worrying doesn't stop you dying. Worrying stops you living.
I love that. It's very powerful. I've never actually heard that. And I've studied anxiety disorder till, oh my God, in the library every single day for 10 years. I even look back on some YouTube videos, even some of yours, and I'll see a comment from me saying, Dr. Sanjay, this is great. 7 years ago.
Oh, right.
When I was stuck at home in Dublin, Ireland, literally living in a kilometre radius of 3 to 4 kilometres. Now I've travelled more cities in France than I have in Ireland. And it's just crazy, and it's so possible. It's absolutely so possible. There's nothing special about me. I just had enough. And I went out and tested, and Dr. Sanjay, 10 years struggling to the highest degree of agoraphobia, panic attacks, anxiety, worrying about death, seizures, stroke, heart attacks. Dr. Sanjay, I made a full recovery in 5 months. When I started my recovery journey, when I listened to that video one day and I told you I went out on that jog, I was crying, I was shaking. There was still parts of me, will I die? I didn't care anymore. And I went on that run, and it was the furthest I've ever went in a long time. And then I was doing little 1Ks, 1K here, 1K there, 1 kilometre here. In my 4th month, Dr. Sanjay, I ran the Dublin Marathon. From a guy who, for 10 years, had fear of heart attack. And when he started to try recover, I could only go 1K, 2K. And after doing that consistently, it's like my brain finally was finally able to think rational. And it didn't happen in the first month or even the first 2. It was kind of the third and a half month of doing these consistent running where my brain was like, You're not going to have a panic attack. Dr. Sanjay, I used to jog beside hospitals. I used to jog beside fire brigade stations because there's a paramedic in there. And although I was running towards those places, I wasn't doing myself any favors, because I was doing little jogs running towards hospitals, because I'm like, well, if anything happens, I'm close to a hospital. So what I did was, when I'd go on my jogs, I'd always turn right, and that's towards safety. So here I am jogging for a month or two. I'm like, I'm still having panic attacks because I wasn't letting go fully. So now I jog up and I take the left, and the left, no hospital. My mom's job wasn't down that way. My house was more difficult to get to. The fire brigade station with the paramedic in it, no one was there to save me. And that's where I found recovery, when I went into the deepest, darkest pits of my recovery. And then I remember the day I finished the Dublin Marathon. So my girlfriend, who I was speaking to 3 to 4 years before I even met her, because I said, hey, there's no chance I can't get on a plane. I can't even get on a bus in Dublin, Ireland. So, but she stuck with me. And eventually then, after the 4th month, when I'd done my my marathon, all my family were waiting at the finish line for me. My mom, like, that was not a race for me. That was not a marathon. My mom, my auntie, my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, maybe not my cousins, they were a bit young. They knew that wasn't a run for me. That was me getting my life back. And on the way home in that car, I went online and I booked my first flight to Paris on October the 17th, 2019. Wow. And now here I am living here for 2.5 years. I've traveled to Lyon, loads of places. And it all started from those small, tiny, little runs with the use of your videos and the correct knowledge out there, and so much bravery. And exactly what you just said there is like, it's not, what was your quote again? It's not what. It's
the worrying doesn't stop you dying. Worrying stops you living.
Yeah, and that's a real, like, wow. That's what it was. That hit home. Like, I can continue to live this way and suffer for another 10 years. I can get moving. So I never forget that day when I got on that plane for the first time and I landed in Paris. A funny story about that, Dr. Sanjay. When I got a lift off my friend's dad to the airport, okay? And when I got out at the airport, I forgot my phone. So I called my mom and I was like, Mom, you're not going to believe it. I'm not forgetting my phone. So because all the lies and the bullcrap over the years, my mom she was in work at the time. She thought, okay, he gave it a good try. That he left his phone there as an excuse. No, I just literally left my phone there. So my auntie and my sister, because my mom was in work, they dropped my phone up and I took the phone, gave them a hug, gave them a kiss. See you later. My auntie and sister, I didn't notice. They stayed outside for almost 1 hour, thinking I was in there crying or just waiting for me to come back out. And I was up in the air. And it's only like an hour and 20 minutes on a flight from Paris to Dublin to Paris. And when they arrived home in the car, within an hour, they had a picture sent into the group family chat of me like this, standing in front of the Eiffel Tower. And I'll never forget that. Never. It was the most beautiful part of my life. And I'm age 33 now, and Dr. Sanjay, I can sit here and say I have lived life. My life's complete. Whatever happens after this, I don't care. I've overcome the most difficult part of my life, and I just want to share that with other people. That I went 5 months for recovery, and I had it for 10 years. That's the power of the mind. I just let go. I was no longer afraid of heart attack anymore. I gave up. So it's possible for people. And I just want to get that information out as much as possible. And one of the key things that hold people back are heart attacks, fear and heart attacks. It's crazy. It's not crazy. It's so normal in the circumstances. Me and you aren't here to talk about how easy it is to get over panic attacks. It's difficult. They're horrible. Who the hell wants to be thinking of having heart attacks? It's horrible. It's awful. But there has to come to a point in your life when what we just spoke about here is, do I want this for another year, another 5 years, another 10 years? Or am I going to get out and live and let go? Yeah. And that's the most important part. And it's very powerful, you know, it really is. And, you know, that's a quote that I never heard before, what you just said there. And I'm definitely going to tag that and link it up and put it up because it's very powerful. But as I said, the question before this, Dr. Sanjay, was, this is a really, really common thing for you to experience in your office.
All the time. We see it all the time. And unfortunately, you know, one of the big problems is that medicine as a whole has become a bit of an impersonal science. It's impersonal and it's very defensive. And actually, people have realized that fear is a very profitable enterprise. The business of fear is very profitable. So when you're scared, you go out looking for help. Well, that makes money, and then you go and buy medications. That makes money, and you know. So unfortunately, and also the medical profession just thinks that, oh, if it ain't dangerous, then it's not important. You know, quality of life is the most important thing. But the medical profession is like, oh, well, it's not dangerous. You're not going to die. Go away. And that doesn't really serve any purpose whatsoever. What you have to turn around and say, well, actually, quality of life is important. You're struggling. Your quality of life is affected. Maybe a little bit of time, maybe a little bit of, you know, rapport building and giving you some confidence is going to be worth it. And it is, because otherwise what tends to happen is that those people who don't feel adequately reassured will then continue seeking help from the medical system, and the medical system then starts treating them as like their time wasters, etc. Whereas actually what they haven't done is they haven't sorted the problem out, and that comes from seeing one doctor, not 100 different doctors, seeing someone who has empathy, who has compassion, and who is able to understand things from your perspective. You know, that's really, really important, I think. And that you don't get, unfortunately. And one other thing I wanted to tell you about, one of the things that I think is maybe very helpful for those who listen to you, is I don't know whether you've heard the story of baby elephants. Have you heard the story of baby elephants?
No.
Okay. So in places like India, what used to happen is, you know, they use these elephants, baby elephants, to perform in a circus and this kind of thing. And the way they do it is that these poor elephants don't have a very good life. But when they're babies, they're chained to this little wooden stake, you know, in the ground. So they're chained. And so the baby tugs and tugs, and it can't let go because of the stake. Over a period of time, the baby grows, and it grows to this big, gigantic beast. It's still attached to that small, tiny stake that it was attached to when it was a baby. Now, it is so obvious to anyone that that elephant could just knock that stake down any time. You know, it is nothing in comparison to what that elephant has become. But the elephant never tries, because he's given up. He doesn't. He's just lives in this idea that he's never going to be able to get rid of that he's not going to be able to shake that stake. He's conditioned in that way. And that's what our fear is. You know, we put ourselves in this prison, and the door is open, unfortunately. So you sit there in the prison, and every day is horrible, and you wish, oh gosh, you know, I wish I could get out. And actually the door is open. You just have to be brave enough to open the door, you know, push it open and you'll see it's open. That's all you need to do. And by taking on this kind of thing where you've turned around and confronted something in your own little way, you know, you don't have to do something crazy, but confronting something every day is a way of opening that door. And that can be confronting it by saying, okay, well, today I'm going to be able to go for a walk. I'm going to walk on my own. I'm going to go for a little run. That doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to do, I mean, you were very brave and did a marathon, but you could do 5 minutes and then build up. And that's fine. And always look back and say, look, where have I come now? You know, I've come this far. It may seem that where you want to get to is really far away, but never forget that when you turn back and say, actually, once upon a time, I didn't even leave the house. Now I'm going for 10-minute walks. That's a great thing. That's huge. If you can do 10 minutes, you'll be able to do 1 hour. There's no doubt about it in my mind. So I think in some ways, I think the medical profession is to blame because there is a lot of fear out there, etc. But I also think that patients have to take control. They have to, a lot of this is about sort of, wanting someone else to come in and try and help you in some way. But actually, at a certain point, you have to say, well, I have to take charge of my life. I am the master of my destiny. And I'm going to live on my terms. And that's what you're doing. And clearly the benefits are there to be seen. The reality is anyone can die. I can be talking to you and die tomorrow. No one knows, we can be hit by a car. There's 1,000,001 ways to die.
Yeah.
And if you start concentrating on that, you wouldn't even eat food because you'd think, oh, I could choke. I don't want to go here. I could slip and fall or break a hip or a good in my head. What you have to do is live. That is the important thing. If you are, once that is all that matters. That is all you have any control over. Your future, you just have the illusion that you may have a control over your future. You don't. The only thing you have control over is your quality of life. And it's a shame that a lot of people forego that for something that they have no control over and will never have control over. And I think it's really important patients realize that.
Yeah, that's very powerful as well, about like this big ferocious elephant with such power has been so conditioned to feel so weak. And then when we put that into panic attack terms, well, adrenaline surges, these adrenaline surges, panic attacks seem so powerful and they keep you stuck so much. But in reality, your mindset and you as a human being are far more powerful than any panic, adrenaline, and it's stopping you from living. It's conditioning you, and
absolutely,
yeah, that was really great. There's lots of things on this now which I'm going to be able to take a little snippet out and be like, mom. But another thing is, like, as I said, what I wanted kind of this to be is like, think of me, Glenn, when he was really struggling. What questions would I ask Dr. Sanjay? And one of my other fears was, what if I keep thinking about heart attack? Will it eventually happen to me? And it's like pseudoscience. People are reading too much into that Rhonda Byrne book, The Secret. If I keep thinking it and believing it, it will happen. All right, well, start thinking about $1 million falling into your backyard, and that's never going to happen. It's the same way thinking of you're going to have a heart attack. It's not going to happen. It's all pseudoscience. So can we touch on that a little bit, Dr. Sanjay, of like, oh, if I keep thinking about it, it will happen. I just keep thinking about heart attack. It's going to happen. No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, absolutely not. It is not going to happen. There is. This is just anxiety, isn't it? This is what anxiety does. It makes you think like that. It sort of colors your reality, but absolutely not. You can't. You don't have a control over your future. And I think a lot of people make the mistake where they go out and sort of, because they're not getting any answers, they get very worried. And then actually sometimes people, and not for everyone, but sometimes people will join forums and Google, and then the mind will capture the most negative, the most pessimistic outcome. That's what the mind latches onto, Unfortunately, the problem is that it is, when you, for example, read about a sportsman dropping down dead, the reason it makes the news is because it is a rare event.
Yeah, exactly.
It is not a common event. That's the fundamental problem. So a lot of people they get this from the media, etc., and everyone else, sort of latches onto those events. Those are incredibly unusual, rare events. That's why they make the media. Again, I would say that absolutely, in my experience, no, it doesn't happen like that at all. And I think you shouldn't worry about that. The reality is we're all going to die, right? We're all going to die. That goes without saying.
100%.
I mean, I know I'm going to die. I don't spend my whole life worrying about it. I have no control over that. That's when it happens, it happens. That's the nature of, you know, you can't spend your time thinking about that.
Yeah. There's so much life to live out there, you know, and to live in fear of.
Absolutely.
So listen, if there's a genuine fear that could happen, okay, you understand about it. Like, it's understandable, but worrying about panic attack giving you a heart attack. It's like, okay, you can kind of rationalize and say, like, okay, it's a genuine fear that could happen, but like, this isn't. At least if you're going to worry about something that could happen. Even like that might suit you a little bit better. But worrying about, like, think about heart attack all the time will bring on a heart attack, is it's just not going to happen. You know, and another thing, Dr. Sanjay, probably one of the last questions I have to ask you is in regards to putting the body through all this stress. Like, and you know, it's like Dr. Sanjay, like, you know how strong the heart is, how strong this beautiful thing in our body is, how, you know, how strong it is, the muscle around it, everything, it's so strong. And you think of the people like going through, and it is like, it's real stress, you know, it's not easy. Life's tough for many people. But you think of like the levels of stress that other people are going through in life, okay? Like, let's take for Ukraine and Russia and stuff like that, like getting bombs dropped on them and stuff like that. People aren't just dropping dead of heart attacks because their adrenaline's flying. You know, they're dealing with it because the body and the heart is just so strong. You know, it's not just stresses, and you know, and that's one of the questions is like, over time, like with my 10 years, I think, oh, this can't be good for my heart. Like, I've been stressing out this, the adrenaline's being released into my body time and time again. Something is going to happen. I've been dealing with this for 10 years. Another clear no, it doesn't work like that. Heart attacks are not caused by stress, right? They're caused by blocked coronary arteries and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you are thinking that this stress is not good for me, then stop stressing. It's as easy as that. But the reality is, again, you know, heart attacks, etc. One of the most important things is that they are a consequence of aging. You know, when you get older, you can, you know, lots of people who are in their 80s, they lead completely normal lives. They have heart attacks. That's just a dumb thing. You know, I mean, look at professional athletes, look at Olympians, look at professional weightlifters, look at professional underwater divers. You know, look at what they can put themselves through.
Oh, yeah.
Look at Usain Bolt running the 100 meters. This is the capability of the body. This is the capability. This is the ability of the heart. So the very fact that, you know, absolutely not. I don't think mental stress about dying, about having a heart attack, impacts on your heart. But of course, if you don't go out, if you become lonely, if you become depressed, if you then start on depressants, if you then start overeating because you feel lonely and miserable and feel trapped, then that is far more dangerous for your overall health.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
So it is the worry about dying, which actually has so many other negative consequences, both for your mental and your physical health, rather than just thinking, okay, you know, saying that, okay, well, this stress is not good. But again, you know, exercise, meditation, surrounding yourself with positive-minded people, and then working on yourself and saying, okay, well, I'm not going to let this control me or define me. That's the best way out of this. As I say, the only thing that I see is people come in 20 years down the line, they say, where's my life gone? You know, and a lot of times people will come to me and say, oh, you know, I've got 2 teenage daughters, I want to be there for their marriage, you know. And I said, well, be there for them now.
Absolutely.
You know, why? What makes you think that, you know, so you can continue like this, deprive them of you because you're so worried, not go out and, enjoy your life with them, and then what makes you think that, oh well, then I want to be that suddenly one day it'll all change? This is a continuous process. This is something you have to take charge of, because it is important. It is important for you, it is important for your family. Yeah, it is really important.
100%, 100%. And you like, the more, like, when people start this process of recovery through anxiety disorders, agoraphobia, stuff like that, yeah, listen, at the start of it, your brain has had so much negative reinforcement. It's not as if you're going to stop having panic attacks right away.
No,
It's not. You negatively reinforce your amygdala for years, you know. And it wasn't even for me. Like, I didn't just wake up and run that marathon. It took me 4 months. It took me 4 months to even, you know, even 1 month I could still hardly run 3 kilometers from home, but I kept going and I kept going. Then in the third month I was running 7, 8, 9 Ks, and then getting on because I burnt my adrenaline now, I could then take the bus home and feel calm on the bus.
Yeah.
Because I just naturally released my adrenaline. And, you know, I always tell my clients who I'm working with who about adrenaline, I'm like, okay, take your phone out now, go and Google how to burn excess adrenaline in the body, and tell me what 10 things comes up. And they're like, oh, there's no list. It just says there's one thing. What does it say? The only way to burn excess adrenaline in the body is through cardiovascular exercise. And that, I never knew that. So when I look back at my recovery, I'm like, I used to think, how did this happen? How does a man or woman stay stuck for 10 years, unable to work for 10 years, afraid to go far from home, getting buses, getting cars, miss out on everything, take their whole life back, end up doing a marathon and getting to Paris on a plane in 5 months? It was because every day I went into fear. Every day I went into panic, and I burned my adrenaline system out naturally.
Yeah.
And everything just, it was like a total psychological switch over. And that's what people don't understand, is that they have all this adrenaline in their body and they're not burning it off. Now, listen, I'm not saying running is the key to overcoming anxiety. It's going into fear, whether you run, walk, go in on a scooter, a bike, a car, handstand, balance on your 2 fingers and go forward into all you want. It's going into it. And that's going to take time to override. You know, people have it for 20 years. I have clients have it for 23 years, 15 years, 14 years, 10 years, or 1 year. That negative reinforcement just doesn't come off that easy. You're dealing with a very primitive part of the brain here that it won't let you go that easy, because it's been watching your behavior for so long. So be patient with that. Have this information about, like, I'm not going to die of a heart attack. So let's take forward steps into this. When I'm going to go into that shopping center and just let my heart beat. I'm not going to add second fear and run out and continue that, you know, negative reinforcement spiral, because then I stay stuck.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I feel a very misunderstood behavioral condition. I don't like even to call it a mental illness, Dr. Sanjay. I see it as it's definitely a mental health problem, of course. If something's stopping you living your life, yeah, it's a mental health problem, of course. But I don't see it as like a severe mental illness, and I see it as a behavioral condition from fear. That's how I like to see it, and that's how I like to deliver to my clients that I work with, to take the fear and take the shame away. Say you have a behavioral condition because panic attacks are bloody awful. So let's get the right information to make it seem like this is what a panic attack really is. Is it actually so bad? No. Well, let's start to live our lives. Let's start to get that back. And that's how I see it, and that's how, what I wish I had when I when I walked into a doctor's office and got prescribed antidepressant tablets at age 18, instead of getting this type of information. I wouldn't have lost 10 years of my life, but it was the best 10 years I ever lost. And I'm here now because of it. And I can, you know, have my own business because of it. I've traveled. And someone asked me a good question today, Dr. Sanjay, only a week ago or something like that. They said, Glenn, when you overcame your disorder, did you have this feeling inside of that you had to make up for lost time? And in a way I did. I think everyone does. But I made up for that within 6 months, 7 months, a year. Like, it's not as if every day and I'm like, oh, I still need to make up for it. What I did and what everyone else will do when they overcome the disorder, you make up for that very, very quickly. And that's in the local coffee shop, sitting there eating a sandwich and having a coffee with your nervous system not spiking. That's taking your kids to school or in a little car. It's not being in Paris beside the Eiffel Tower. That's not what recovery is about.
Yeah.
Recovery is living those small, simple things in life that you've missed out on. I mean, I think my dog bloody became agoraphobic. I only brought it to one park for 10 years. Like, you know, obviously my mom could bring her places, stuff like that. But, you know, it's that's what recovery is. It's those small, simple things in life. Not sipping on a, you know, a glass of Hennessy in Ibiza. Maybe you might want that, and that's cool. That's great. But that's not recovery. You don't have to go to these massive places to feel recovery. You know, it's a very misunderstood condition, I feel, Dr. Sanjay, with the correct help just not there. And that's what I wanted this to be about, to get this out to people, get them to take their lives back, get them to take themselves, give them the bravery, give them the correct knowledge that I'm not a cardiologist, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a clinical psychologist, I'm just a dude who went through it, a normal person. And now, although I'm telling my clients, you're not going to die of a heart attack, you're not going to do this, not going to. Now I'm just like, okay, Dr. Sanjay, cardiologist, 40 years, deal with everything, listen to that. And that's way more powerful. So, Dr. Sanjay, listen, it's a little bit surreal. And even, you know, I'm talking to my business coach before this, and I'm like, this is mad. Like, I used to listen to this man. And now I'm on how far my life has come. Now I'm almost interviewing him and doing what Barry McDonough did. And it's a very, like, my day is going to be so peaceful today because I just had this conversation with you. I'm going to have a cup of tea after this, and I'm going to be so proud that, wow, I used to listen to you lying on my couch or bed, shaking in fear, and having to listen to you and Barry McDonough to put me asleep. And now here I am in beautiful Lyon, in a different country.
You are, and not only that, not only have you worked on your recovery, but you've taken all that experience to try and help other people, which is remarkable, really. Because that's where you want to get in life, don't you? You want to get in life to a place where you're either, you know, you're serving your fellow man. So that in itself indicates real victory in your journey. You know, the fact that not only have you overcome your own inhibitions, but you can now go out and actually become someone else's support system. That, I think, is really important. So,
yeah, and like, if you asked me when I overcame this disorder in 2019, I didn't want to hear the word panic attack again. This was the last thing I wanted to do, but it became a calling for me. You know, I was receiving emails, and because of the YouTube video I was putting up, the people were sending me questions, like, not just, oh, nice video. They were like, Glenn, this is changing my life. And when a passion sparks in you, like, that's like, wow. And then I eventually just developed a business, and I use it in a way that, like, what I'll do, I mainly work with agoraphobic people who are terrified of panic. And what I do, Dr. Sanjay, is I'll call them, I'll set out an exposure, and I'll call them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And like, I'll have some people who will be doing jogging, and I'll be like, okay, listen, all I want you to do is run to the top of that traffic light and back. It's all you have to do today. 3 months down the line, they're running 5K, 10K. Some people might not take the jogging route, and they're doing it in the car. I say, okay, I'm going to be with you in the car, and they'll have to panic. I'm like, see it through, guiding people. Real support. Not let's jump on a call every Friday, because I know they won't do it, because I didn't do it. I needed more than that. And that's the way I like to do mine. That's the way I like to help people. It's with that type of support, where Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're going into fear. And that's the way, that's what got me through it. I had that support system from a guy back in Ireland, and he would come on the jogs with me. I'd be like, gosh, I can't run down this road. And I'll never forget one time it was a long road that had me down in a long time, Dr. Sanjay, and he stopped, and I said, Sean, I can't do this. And he says, Glenn, you've had this for 10 years. If you don't take action now, do you want to have this in your 40s? because I'm being real. This is the only way out. And that really hit home. And I didn't go home that day. I went down that road. I was shaking. I was thinking I need to run into someone's house to get a lift home in their car. But I went through it time and time and time and time again. And now here I am. And it wasn't an easy journey, but it's so possible. And mine was so acute. So those people out there who are listening, it's so possible. Not in the cliche way of like, hey, if you can do it, I can do it. No, really. If I can get past what I got past, you can. You don't have to travel. You don't have to sit inside the front of the Eiffel Tower. It has nothing to do with that. It's those small things in life that are everything. Even to this day, just sipping it in a coffee shop. I stopped coffee as well for 9 years. I only started drinking it there about a year ago, and I love it. Because I was told I'll spike my heart rate, and my adrenal system has calmed down now, and everything's normal, and I can sip on a nice coffee and enjoy it. But yeah, Dr. Sanjay, it was wonderful just to have you here, and I really appreciate your time. And as I said, I'm going to get off here with a big smile on my face and realize again, sometimes certain things in my journey, although I'm recovered 4.5 years now, some things will be like, wow. And this is one of those moments. So I appreciate you giving me that moment, and then this will spread to other people who need it. So I thank you for giving me that moment for myself personally on a personal level to show me, wow, this is amazing. I never believed that. I used to fall asleep to this guy on my earphones. Now I'm talking to him. And then that message will spread then to everyone who needs it, who, let's go live life.
Absolutely. Thank you so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I wish you all the best, and I think this is exactly what's needed. I think it is people who've been through that have the right empathy and compassion and kindness to offer people who are going through that. So I'm really glad that you're doing what you're doing, and I think that you would make more of a difference than medical professionals who are sort of very kind of protocol based, etc. So amazing work, well done, and I hope it continues.
Thank you so much. I always have a joke to people that I say, not the therapists are great, they're struggling with things, like they're great, but for this condition, it's misunderstood, Dr. Sanjay. It's misunderstood. People need more. And I always joke to, when I have clients, I'm like, where are all the professionals helping you? Why are you talking to some random Irish guy?
Yeah.
But it's so true that it's a wealth of knowledge, and it's compassion based, and it's like, if someone, I'll have people just going out and they're like, Glenn, I can't do this today. I'm like, okay, well, don't go have a cup of tea, but you're going tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's not every day you're gonna not feel the best, but don't shame yourself about it. Okay, you're just maybe overtired or whatever. I'm not gonna push it today. Go home, have a cup of tea, have no shame. I'll see you again at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we're gonna go. And never let people have 4 days off, 5 days off. And that's the way. Discipline equals freedom.
Absolutely.
So listen, thank you so much, and I hope you have a lovely weekend, whatever you do. And I'll never forget what you've done for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.